So tell us about why this is such a special and different car, the C8. Now, you have a mid-engine on it. You also, with the ZR1 package, I understand it goes 0 to 60 in under 3 seconds. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah, we made a big decision here a few years back, and we've really worked hard to keep the formula of Corvette from an attainability and aspiration standpoint intact, and putting the engine in a mid-engine location here has been, is a big challenge. A lot of the supercars in the world that are very expensive have done it, but the obtainable aspirational piece of Corvette, we were never willing to sacrifice for that. And I think really we took the front engine Corvette to the absolute limit in terms of horsepower and capability. And when we go to this mid-engine configuration, you can see what we get here, an incredible value of under $60,000, an engine that makes 495 horsepower and 470 foot-pounds of torque. In an incredibly engineered package that we think our customers are going to absolutely love. You can still, the utility of the car was also a big fear before we introduced it last night. A lot of people thought that we'd lose utility from the Corvette Coupe that we have on a front engine comparison. But we didn't. We can still carry golf clubs, and we have a frunk, which is a front trunk, and then a rear compartment as well that's very sizable. You can still put the target top in the rear on board. So it's a sort of the best of all worlds, and wrapped in a beautiful design. So we're very, very happy. It was a big night for us and our customers.
I should say, Mark, and as you say, you're going to be competing against some people who really charge several times what you're charging. But one of the things you lost was the 4 on the floor. I mean, I have a 1962, as you know, bright red 1962, and I have that 4 on the floor. I can't believe you're giving up the stick shift.
Yeah, actually, this too. I have a 62 as well with 4 on the floor, and as an important and iconic piece of the Corvette as it's been, the Corvette started off as an automatic. I don't know if a lot of people know that, but it did. It started off with a 2-speed power glide in 1953. So it's not totally unheard of here. And of course, we sell a ton of automatics today with our 8-speed, but this is a whole different formula here with an 8-speed dual clutch transmission. So that really enables a lot of the performance from a 0 to 60 standpoint because of the gearing that we've chosen for it, but also it is lightning quick. It's quicker than any human being in terms of either a manual paddle shift or left and automatic shift mode itself. It's a blast to drive, and we can do some things electronically that we can never do, obviously, with a manual transmission. So I think this configuration is going to be delightful.
Yeah, a lot of sophisticated technology involved there. You're out there in California, where I'm mindful Cruise also resides. You have Cruise. Give us an update on Cruise and where that stands. I know your colleague Dan Ammon has taken it over. Last time I talked to Dan, he said that they think they'd have a commercial application available in 2019. Are you still on target for that?
Yeah, I think we're not unlike Super Cruise. We have a year that we'd like to do it as we do with Super Cruise, but we're going to let safety gate this process. So that's at the core of our values as a company, as you know. So safety will gate it, but yeah, that's the target. And we're doing some great things. In fact, while we were out here, we had a board meeting of Cruise, so we got to see the progress. We got to see where the engineering is and where the progress is. And they are doing. It's a very integrated activity with lots of different engineering sites within GM around the world. But this is where it's happening. This is where the most challenging driving is. So it was great to see it, and it's a great team. And Kyle and Dan and Daniel, the whole team is really energized. So it's a fun place to go.
Mark, I'm mindful of the fact that we're beginning now the UAW negotiations, not just for General Motors, but for the other car manufacturers as well. There's been an official kickoff that really starts in earnest, as I understand it, after Labor Day. How can you move forward your relationship with the UAW? I mean, that relationship has evolved a lot through the years. What does General Motors want to get out of this? What do they want to give their workers?
Well, I think this is a time in the auto industry which there's relatively high volume in the industry, which is great. There's relatively high profitability across the whole industry as well, with most of the makers that we're negotiating with right now as we start. But I think, we want our workforce, salaried, hourly, whatever. If you're a GM employee, we want you to share in the success that we have and do everything we can, whatever our job is in the company, to make sure that we make products like the Corvette we're sitting in front of today that's made in Bowling Green, Kentucky. Those are massive opportunities for us every time we launch a new vehicle, with our workforce to really hit the ball out of the park in terms of quality, but also the engineering, design, and marketing of the vehicle. So each one of those opportunities is huge, and we want to be able to share in the success with our workforce, which I think we do a pretty good job of. But we also have to be competitive in terms of how much engineered content we put into the car for our plants to build. And all of our plants, our propulsion plants, our final assembly plants, our component plants, all of those plants are vitally important to the competitiveness and how we deliver a car like the Corvette for under $60,000. So we got to be efficient, we've got to be excellent, and we've got to have the quality first. And I think that's the focus. And I think the UAW bargaining piece of that is probably well understood. That's what we want, and that's what we have to do for all of our employees in the company.
One of the challenges for all employers across the country, and frankly for the country itself, is healthcare, because we have an increased percentage of our GDP going to healthcare, not always with the results that we might like. Is there any way that the private sector, General Motors, through these sorts of negotiations, can step in and help that reform? Because we've had some troubles with it in Washington. Are there things you're going to propose in healthcare?
Yeah, I wouldn't say there's, David, that's not something that, we're not a healthcare defining company. We work on our healthcare for our employees to make sure that we, develop and administer the most competitive benefit plans that we can for all of our employees, including myself. So those are, that's really the goal when we look at stuff like this. But also, how can we be more effective and efficient in delivering high value for the money that we put into the healthcare system on an employee basis? So I think that's the focus. But in terms of the reform on the legislative piece of that, that's pretty tough for the private sector to be able to do that. We can point out where there's opportunities, and I think that's where we're focused. So that's what we do.
Mark, finally, the most important question for anybody who might have $60,000: when can somebody go into a GM showroom and buy one of these new 2020 Stingrays?
A great question, David. What we're doing right now is we've got a great new online configurator at Chevy.com. And so you can go in and actually design your own Corvette and option it and pick colors and all that kind of stuff. But after we unveiled here today, you'll see cars on the road now that without camouflage, and we'll put an engineering fleet into service where we'll try and put about 500,000 miles on the car before we go into full-scale production. So assuming we hit all those gates of quality, we'll be in production here the fourth quarter. Early fourth quarter of this year, so pretty exciting times.
Yeah, just in time for Christmas. That's a good idea, Mark. I'll mention that around the house.
That's right. Big red bow.